I'm so happy today to have Catherine Shanahan, my friend, on the Divorce Doctor podcast. Let me tell you a little bit about Catherine Shanahan and her story. At age 18, she was the first one in her family to leave home to attend college. By age 23, she was the top producing female financial advisor in the Philadelphia area. And at age 27, she walked away from it all to become a full-time mom to 3 stepchildren and eventually 2 of her own while her husband rose to the top of his career. The next 23 years brought much joy watching her children flourish into young adults. But the verbal abuse she received from her partner during that time restrained her from reaching the true happiness she deserved. At 44, she decided it was time for her to reclaim her future and filed for divorce. With hopes of a fresh start and a desire to help others through the divorce process, Catherine co-founded My Divorce Solution, an amazing company whose mission is to transform an experience she knew far too well from a difficult one into an empowering one. As a trained certified divorce financial analyst, a mediator, and the daily money manager, Catherine stands strong by her commitment to ensure no woman allows divorce to define who they are. And Catherine also has an amazing podcast that I had the opportunity of being on. And your work empowers women in, I think, such a crucial way. So I'm so happy you're here and I can't wait to talk about your story.
Oh, thank you for having me. I always love talking to you. So
Me
I'm
too.
so thrilled to be here. Yeah,
I love talking to you too. So, Catherine, what I ask everybody in the podcast, the first question I always ask is, what's one word or two that you would use to describe your divorce?
Empowering.
Empowering. Can you share a little bit more about that?
I think that I found so much power and from my children. Being a stepmom is really difficult. And then being a mother to 2 biological children, you sometimes feel powerless at being a stepmother. And then walking away from a marriage after being with someone for 23 years, you feel powerless too, because you're giving up so many rights in a lot of ways. But having all of your children surround you years later, you realize it's really empowering to know that you did the right thing to get that support. And then you realize the real people who mean so much to you surround you with love is so empowering. And the people who you thought were supportive to you for 23 years walk away. And you think that you're powerless. You're really not. You found your own power within. So in time, you really feel empowered. It doesn't happen overnight.
Right.
But you find this strength within yourself over time. So it becomes really empowering. I mean, look, I became an entrepreneur. Whoever thought that would happen,
Right.
Right.
Right. I mean, I love this idea also, that what the reason I started this podcast is so many people listening, they can't see the light after, right? Like, can't see the light at the other side of divorce, as my book is called. They're in the storm, and I get it. And that's why I like to bring people like you who say, I'm sure you worried about how it's going to impact your kids. I'm sure you worried about how it's going to impact your stepkids. But now you're saying, look at this. They're surrounding me. I'm full of love. Like, I didn't lose those things I was most afraid of. And in fact, I can probably be closer to them and feel more empowered as a person around them.
Yes, exactly. I remember my 2 children giving me a bracelet, and I ended up framing it, and they wrote me a beautiful note, and it said a warrior on it.
Oh.
And I didn't want to wear it because I didn't want to lose it, and it said, they both wrote me, and I save anything that's handwritten. Even to this day, I think a handwritten note is the best thing you can give somebody. And the note said, Mom, it's your time. You've always been our cheerleader. Now it's time for us to cheer you on. And, you have been our warrior, and now we want to be your warrior. And it's framed and the note's framed. And I found so much empowerment in that in itself. Right.
Yeah.
And I just thought, wow, you always hope your children, everything you teach them comes back to you.
Yeah.
And these simple little gestures.
Yeah.
When you think, like you said earlier, you're so afraid you stay together in your marriage, even though you're unhappy, because you don't want to mess your kids up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? And as a parent, we would never do anything to hurt our children.
Right.
So you stay because you don't want to hurt your children. So in taking that tough move because you want to be happy, you just want to be happy. You don't want to hurt anybody.
Right.
So when you take that tough move, even though you beat yourself up inside your head, the talk that we give ourselves,
right.
when your children then in turn do something like this, and you think, oh my gosh, they're supporting you in that decision.
Right. Well, you're such an example of what I talk about, that if you show your children what it looks like to take care of yourself, they learn how to take care of other people. Like, they don't get angry. I mean, I'm sure they had their emotions and their process, but this is such a good story of, kids can move through this and they can even be proud of you, because it's not a good model to suck it up for other people. Then you're teaching them that, as they said, you've been a cheerleader for us, and now we're here to be a cheerleader for you. You were such an amazing model to them.
Well, I'm sure I've done things that they don't like too, but
sure, we all, of course, no one's perfect by any means, but that was a pretty big one, right? A pretty big one.
Right.
Yeah.
But again, they've done things I didn't like.
Exactly. 100%. We're humans, adorable humans, as my friend says. So one thing, Catherine, that I like to ask people when they come on the podcast is kind of what the time frame was for you, because it takes quite a while from that first moment where you have that little thought. And you mentioned when you shared your bio about the verbal abuse. So when did you start thinking, what was the time frame between when you first got the thought and when you actually left?
Yeah. I knew from the beginning. I was 23 when I met him, and he had 3 children from a prior marriage of only 4 years. But I believed everything he told me. He was 6 years older than I was. But I fell in love with his children right from the beginning. And I was afraid to tell my parents. I was an Irish Catholic girl that didn't come from a family of divorce. So I believed that I could make it work. So we fought from the beginning, and some of that was insecurities of my own. Yeah. I couldn't understand why he had children and he was going to leave his wife. So I believed the stories he told me. I thought I could fix that. And now I fell in love with these 3 girls. So I couldn't break up with him because then I was leaving them, right? So we fought a lot. Maybe it was jealousy because, jealous of the first wife, whatever it was. Right?
Yeah.
So I just kind of stayed with that. So we got married and then we had a child right away. But we fought a lot. So we just, I wasn't going to leave then because then we had a child.
Yeah.
So we always fought. I suspected things along the way. So I kind of knew, in hindsight now, it just wasn't a good relationship as far as that went.
Yep.
As time went on, there was a lot of fighting always throughout the years. It just, we weren't communicative. It was always combative. It was always toxic in that way. I always then said when the youngest graduated from high school, that was going to be my point in time.
Okay.
My dad then died and I couldn't wait till high school came. That just wasn't going to happen. So
was it something about the grief that you were dealing with your dad that
I was lonely at that point? It was the grief. I then got thyroid cancer. I was lonely in the marriage. His income then escalated. I was buying things to replace my loneliness. And got the buyer's remorse. And my daughter went off to boarding school to be a golfer. The loneliness really set in. I thought being lonely and married was the worst feeling ever. You might as well be single and lonely at that point.
So was there a moment where you that you just thought, wait a minute, I can't do this anymore. Like I don't deserve to feel lonely within a marriage anymore.
Yeah, it was just, I started seeking to talk to other men. It was just like I needed attraction somewhere else. It was like,
Yeah.
you were seeking outside attention. It was just shopping more,
Yeah.
everything, whatever you could do.
Yeah.
So finally, it was like Danielle, I announced it. She was in Hilton Head,
Hmm.
and it was time to get a divorce.
Hmm.
Um, the world was kind of shocked.
Did you try to put on the facade that everything was great? We have a great family. Is that why people were
But we
shocked?
always had that facade. He always coached all those sporting events. He did
Hmm.
all of that. I was always the team mom. We had all the kids over all the time. We had
Yeah.
the house with the pool. Everyone came there. So we had the big house, the nice cars.
Right.
It was a fun place to be.
Yeah.
So
So
we,
that's really hard too, when you're not just sharing hard news, but you're also shattering this image that you've been carrying with you for so long. But I imagine you're talking about the shopping and the reaching out to other men. It sounds like the image was not easy to keep. Like it took a lot of emotional toll to keep that image going.
yeah, because there had been infidelity on his side also.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of things that nobody knew.
Yeah.
He didn't talk about this stuff outside the house, and
Right.
so nobody knew that he was emotionally abusive to me. You didn't talk about that outside
Right.
the home, and I didn't tell my family about it. They all
Mm,
surmised those things. You didn't talk about all of that.
right.
It was like that from the beginning, the whole marriage.
Yeah.
But you just didn't really talk about it. You just made things work. It just
Yeah,
made
exactly. Right. Like, and
if it
even
looked
as
good
you're
on the outside, everyone suspected it was good on the inside.
exactly. And even as you're saying it, for those who aren't watching the video, there's this movement you're doing with your head of like, make it work. Like it just reminding me of like, keep working, keep going, that image, as opposed to, being in a relationship where you can finally just sit back and you don't have to work so hard. So once you decided that the marriage was going to end, did you seek, what kind of help did you seek for yourself? Any psychological help or spiritual help? What did you do to heal?
So we went to therapy, but he always felt like if whose other relationship would you want? Whose is better than ours? That kind of
Mm,
mindset. You
yeah,
know, but if a therapist didn't agree with him, then he'd want to go to a different one.
that happens a lot. I mean, I say that as a therapist and also in working in this field, that couples therapy can be really helpful if both people want to change. But if you just want someone to kind of mirror what you say, very often one of the partners, and then you just have a lot of therapists, and that can make you feel kind of crazy because you're like, why do we have to go to so many therapists? So once you separated, did you ever do any individual therapy, like not with him but for yourself? Or like, how did you, once you realized, okay, I don't want to be alone in this relationship anymore?
Yeah, because the fights become, you start feeling crazy yourself.
Right.
So because when we would try to communicate, he worked a lot. So a lot of times I was the single mom.
Uh-huh.
So our arguments became me verbatim have to communicate back what was being said. So I would journal the conversation back because
Mm,
I couldn't recall everything that was said. So I would have to write down everything that was
yes.
said because what he was recalling was not what I was recalling. So I would
Right.
write it down
Wow.
so we could self communicate what was going on.
Yeah.
And so I would have 6 and 7 or 8 journals. So I
Wow.
could then hand them the journal to read back what was being said. So after a while, if you can't go to a therapist, you start feeling crazy. So you're living in this crazy world.
Exactly. And I'm wondering too, Catherine, I haven't talked with anyone about this yet on the podcast, but you were the stay-at-home mom at that time. You were the home.
Yes.
And so I think even when you said, the work, that he was working, there is this secret inequity, right? Of, well, you have it pretty good. You have all these things, right? That your happiness doesn't have a monetary value on it, right?
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
if he's bringing in the money and you're unhappy, well, at least I'm getting the vibe that maybe that was coming up.
Well, that's exactly what was said, because, you know, when we got married, we had nothing. You know, he was still supporting his first family, if you want to call it that. And I was educated. I was accountant by trade, and I was doing well. I was actually supporting us in the beginning because he was paying support. So I was actually supporting our new family, right? But then he wanted me to stay home because now he's traveling and rising to the top and living the lifestyle he wants to live by going out to dinner and entertaining. So now I'm staying home. I'm doing the cooking and the cleaning, packing for him, unpacking for him, and taking care of the cars and the house and everything.
Right.
And now he's saying, well, what else do you want? This is the lifestyle you wanted. So if you want to live this lifestyle,
Right.
you have to do all of this stuff. Right. Well, okay. So some days I'm great, but some days I'm not so great because I'm not listening. So when I needed to talk about the kids, I had to make an appointment. We had to talk about this on Saturday. We had to talk about this on Sunday. And yes, I like nice things. So that was true.
Right.
But what I was missing was let's communicate about this stuff.
Right. Well, and also you can have nice things and have love and connection. I mean,
right.
you don't pick one or the other, right? But there's this idea of, well, you're getting this, so you shouldn't need that. And I think so many people who are listening can, I'm sure, resonate with that feeling of being so lonely in the marriage. I remember that too, of just feeling like I'm by myself, kind of like I have a third child. Like I'm the grown up making all these decisions. And now being in a relationship with someone who's an equal, I can't believe my husband was away for one night this week. And I was like, oh my God, I can't believe how much he does. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, like it's supposed to be equal. It's not supposed to be more one person than the other. So I'm just wondering, what was it like? Did you move out? Did he move out? Who shifted the house situation when you separated?
You know, I think about it now, and I don't know how I did it. My daughter was, you know, in South Carolina, and I literally drove back and forth every 9 days because my son was in Pennsylvania. Wow. And I don't know how I made it through it. It was probably the most torturous time because my ex was not very happy about it, but I looked at everybody's schedules.
Yeah.
And I drove back and forth to meet everyone's needs at the time because I didn't want to leave either one. Listen, I'm the helicopter mom that really just didn't want to miss a thing. And I know some mean things were being said about me to everyone around. Mm-hmm. And it really does get me a little choked up. Yeah. But I chose not to really listen to anyone because a lot of it was a lot of lies.
Good.
And I really don't care at this moment what was being said because I know my truth, you know, and that's all that matters to me.
Yes. And that's maybe getting out of the marriage too, Catherine. I'm wondering if it was easier for you to see your truth. Because I'm just imagining all those journals were an example of like, what the hell is my truth? Because I think I know my truth, but all this other stuff is coming at me. So it sounds like separating for you got you maybe a little more in touch with your truth.
It really did. And honestly, I burnt all those journals. I got remarried 2 years ago. It'll be 2 years. And I burnt them all before my wedding. And it was really cathartic. It really, sometimes I think, God, I should have, because something happened a year ago. And I think that, I would have loved to have them just to kind of, but I think, man, I'm really glad I burnt them because I don't need to reread that. It's past and I don't need to read it. It felt so good to burn them all.
Yeah.
I don't need it. I don't need to show them to anyone.
Yeah. To release that.
Yeah. So it felt really good I didn't burn them, I shred them actually.
Beautiful. Beautiful. I love that. And so how, and what did you do to heal from the emotional abuse? How did you heal from that over time since the separation?
I think it's just time. You know, I didn't really understand narcissism. I didn't understand that term. I think that's a new term. And I think people throw that term around loosely, honestly, even to this day. But I understand the meaning of that term. And I think time now and understanding immaturity, and I understand the relationship I'm in now with my current husband, understanding a healthy relationship, and doing the work that I do now. I think I love the passion I have for what I do, and I believe that the gift that I have been given, I believe that God has given me this unique gift to have been able to raise 3 stepchildren.
Yes.
The gift that I have been given to have 2 phenomenal biological children. The gift that I had a 23-year relationship with someone, and the gift that I have with my current husband, the gift that I have with my current business partner at my divorce solution, and working with professionals like you to work with women and men going through divorce. I believe that I went through everything that I've gone through, that I'm able to help people go through divorce a better way. That's my legacy. That's what I'm supposed to do. God has put me on this path.
Yes.
To be able to help people now. That's what I'm supposed to do.
Right.
So that's how I've been able to heal through all my emotional stuff.
Yeah.
Even what my ex put me through in the court battle last year, I understand the court system now. So I was able to go through everything I've gone through so I can help people get through this in a better way.
Well, that's what it sounds like you have an amazing ability to do, Catherine, which is to really see things as a learning opportunity.
Absolutely.
Once you got out of the muck of it being your fault, right? And that taking the blame, you have this amazing ability to think, what can we learn from this? Or even thinking about with the kids, like, what do they need? And when do I have to be there? And when do I have to be here? Like, it sounds like you, and that's probably why you're an amazing, financial advisor, because you can like step back and look at the money and you have that amazing blueprint, right? And so that's your gift of being able to learn from an opportunity, as long as you're not being crushed, with someone who's making you feel like your thoughts are distorted. And so your perspective and your ability to learn and grow from an experience seems to be your superpower and what's helped you heal.
Yeah, actually, I'm able to give you that moment to have your emotional moment.
Yep.
Because it's worth it. Like it's true. It's your moment. Like everybody gets an emotional moment because you deserve it. Like it's a true feeling, and we all get that, right? And I'm able to. My sister reminded me just today. She said, "Take every moment that you have to use it as a teaching moment, because I've already made it. Like I've already made it through it."
Right.
And what else do we have in life to use our past experiences as teaching moments?
Right. And that's what you did for that's what you did for your kids. I mean, you joke that you were a helicopter mom. I think of you more as a guiding mom, again, how you modeled, right? Like you modeled for your kids what taking care of yourself is. You modeled what it looked like to have your friends over. And so you use this amazing ability to teach, to heal. It's like how you use teaching to heal through your divorce. It's really remarkable.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah.
And I think what's so cool about you, Catherine, also is that you bring your experience of divorce to your work, but you also work in an area, especially for women, that's so anxiety ridden, money. So many people talk to me about being afraid of leaving because of money. So was that something you were concerned about, that he would, because he was the primary, I assume that's part of why you help empower women to.
Yeah. When we were together for so long, like I said, we started with nothing. Right. And I'm a cheerleader, and I used to say to him all the time, "You're going to make it to the top. You're going to make X amount of dollars." I was, even when things were bad. Okay, well, this is what we're going to do. And I see you doing this.
Yep.
And what does he do? He gets up there. He gets up there exactly where I say he's going to get. And he was great at it. And I always told him, "You are excellent at this." And he was. And I always said it to him, even after our divorce. I used to motivate him. "You're going to get here, blah, blah, blah." And he did.
Yep.
And what do? Like an idiot, I leave when he gets there. Who does that? My brother even said, "Why would you leave him now when he gets there?" Right? At the moment when I'm leaving, I call my mother and I'm crying. I go, "Oh my gosh, am I an idiot, Mom? Why would I leave him now when he's making X amount of dollars, the most he's ever made, exactly where I envisioned that he's going to go?" Because I'm a visionary. I put things out in the universe and I believe they're going to get there. I've always been like that. I'm always going to be like that. You know what my mother said to me in response? Talk about a mother being like the guiding light. She said to me, and I'm not lying, I'm going to quote her. She said, "Catherine, what are you going to do? Are you going to live your life looking at your bank statements? Are your bank statements going to bring you happiness? Or do you want to live your life being happy?" Because your bank statements at my age are not going to make you happy. And I'm crying my eyes out. And I said, "Thank you, Mom. That's what I needed to hear."
That's what I needed to hear, right? Because a lot of people get hooked by that.
They do.
right? That somehow it's better, something external, like nothing external is better than your internal happiness. Like
Absolutely.
period. It just isn't. And it doesn't last. Shoes don't last, bags don't last, cars don't last. It just doesn't. I mean, I know this from my work. So yeah, but that is I'm so glad that you're bringing this up, because a lot of the other piece is that in your circumstance, I wonder if you had the urge, I think a lot of women have this, to like then not ask for so much in the divorce.
Well, here's what I always say.
Yeah, tell us.
Take it what you could take, and if you want to give it back, I'll help you give it back.
I love that. I love that. I always say that too. It's like the same thing with help. I'm like, get more help, and if you change your mind, we'll get rid of it. But yeah. No, because there's a tendency.
Here's the truth to that, though. Know what your options are, and know what you can get, what you're, know what at least 50-50 is. And if you can do without 50-50, and if you can live budgeted on something less, and you want to make that compromise, then go ahead and make the compromise. It's okay. But at least you're giving it with financial clarity.
Yeah.
Everything is about we all talk about financial literacy in life. Financial literacy is a huge thing. And that's taking all your resources and your tools and understanding what's out there.
Right.
But they don't talk about financial literacy in divorce. And that's what our portrait does. Mm-hmm. So once you're literate about what you have in your marital estate, great. Then go ahead and negotiate away whatever you want, because then you're doing it smartly. Then you can move on with your life without regret.
Right.
People can't move on when they have regret. And I don't care. It's your divorce. It's not your sisters. It's not your brothers. It's not your ex. I mean, right. Your exes. It's not your girlfriends. It's not anyone else's. It's yours. You have to own it. So if you could do it wisely, go ahead.
Right. I love that. And I think about my work as helping people bring their emotions to their consciousness. And I feel like your work is bringing their finances, their consciousness, because it's a relationship, right? We have a relationship, and many women have this, I don't want to look. I don't want to look. And so without your divorce, you would not be doing what you're doing. So I want to ask you the question that I ask all people at this, at the end of the interview, which is, if you could go back, Catherine, with all the information you know now, to that woman who was writing in those journals and trying to communicate, what would you tell her? What little message would you give her? What you know, with what you know now?
You are worth it. You are stronger than you believe, and you're worth it.
I love that. You are stronger than you believe, and you are worth it. And that is the message that you send to all your clients. So it's such a great message, and it's what many people who are on this podcast say, that they could go back and say, like, you can do this, you're worth it. Mm-hmm. Your life is going to be so abundant. So thank you so much, Catherine, for being here today and sharing your story and being so vulnerable and open with us. I'm so grateful. And can you let people, of course, can you let people know how they can find out about you and your amazing work that you're doing?
Oh, go to mydivorcesolution.com, email us at hello@mydivorcesolution.com. Visit our website at mydivorcesolution.com.
And your podcast, people can find your podcast
at We Chat Divorce. We'd love to hear from you. If you have any questions, please call us, follow us on Instagram.
And your podcast is you interview so many important people, and you thank you. I'm honored to have just been on it.
We love having you as a guest.
I loved it. And it's a great resource. And I'll put all this in the show notes, but what's your handle on Instagram?
Oh boy.
I think it's We Chat Divorce.
We Chat Divorce. Okay.
That's what at least the podcast one is. Well, okay. You can find it on, I'll put it in the show notes. So
thank you.
And thank you so much for being here. And again, thank you for being so honest and vulnerable and sharing your story.
Thank you so much for having me.